So, hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Voices.
One mission.
I'm Naomi Brickle.
I'm Brendan Klein.
And today we're here to talk about employment. I've had the pleasure, as I mention in every episode, of knowing Brendan for a long time. But in particular, I've known him over the past several years as a coworker. And Brendan has done a lot of work in the area of advocacy and education. And one of the things he said to me recently was, I really like getting my hands dirty with employment. And so we talked about that, and it ended up leading into a whole conversation about how can he get his hands dirty with employment? How can he make a difference in this field of developmental disabilities, helping people with developmental disabilities, as well as helping the people who help people with developmental disabilities around this topic of employment? So one of the big brainstorms we came up with is like, well, employment supports work really well for Brendan. Brendan has a very successful career. It's not your typical career that you often hear people with developmental disabilities find themselves in, which is the I think it's sometimes called the 4 Fs, the filth. I forget what they are, but it's not your typical job that many people with disabilities find themselves, kind of categorized into. Brendan has a very unique, impactful career. And today he's going to tell us a little bit about his employment journey. And we've invited on in two really wonderful guests who are Min and CJ, who have been a really critical, instrumental part of Brendan's career journey. So Brendan, just to get us started, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your current job so we can get a sense of what's so special about it.
Yeah, so I work at a nonprofit organization for people with disabilities at a organization called WIHD in Valhalla, and I work around social opportunity, advocacy. I'm president of Few Voices. I teach a leadership class for those who want to become leaders, and I now am working on getting my hands dirty on employment opportunities, and then I always love working around policy. Always love working around issues, and love to dive in, and I use a lot of my CJ have taught me a lot of the AI's stuff that I didn't know about until now. So I've been using a lot of the AI stuff, and AI can help me do a lot of my work for me.
And Brendan, your current job, I think you're just having. I know you love it, and I know you've had a really tremendous impact.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about just a little bit about the other jobs you've held in the past?
In the past, I had my current job was at the movie theater, the Jacob Burns Film Center, for 5 years. I was an usher and construction stand. And then second was, let's see if I get this right, is a gift company called Strawberry and Tweed. That does clothing and hats and microphones. And then next is I was a janitor at the my current Pleasantville Library in Pleasantville. And then I believe that's it. And then now, and here we are working on WSC, and this is my 7th years. Wow.
7 years in the same job. That is really amazing.
That's awesome.
And then and I work with my team and Min and CJ, and I have other team that also work with me, my other DSPs, but I think two is a good number, and then I have others,
and they're a really successful team.
Yes.
I mean they've been I've known both of them for the entire time that you've worked at WIHD or that we worked together.
Yeah.
And I know that they really were very, very good supports. And what I think was what made both of them so good is the fact that you barely knew that they were doing anything, and that's really, I think, what
The
makes
behind the
a
scene.
very good employment support. So
Yeah.
let's turn over to this team. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from both of you guys. And Min, maybe if you want to just start, just tell us briefly a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
So, hi Naomi, hi everyone. My name is MinhChau. Everyone call me Min. I've been working with Brendan as his job coach since 2019. I'm also a DSP, ComHab, community stations. Outside work, I am a mom of 3 very active boys. So life can be, busy for me. I'm also supporting my older brother who have IDD. So helping him manage his schedule and that's also how I land this role as a supporting others.
So this is really just supporting Brendan is just one of the many tricks in your hat. You've got a lot going on, and really interesting that it works as well. Like it fits into
Yes.
everything else, which I think is just a great thing to point out. Thank you. How about CJ? How about you? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, totally. So I am the CEO and program director of an agency called O'Brien CMC. So it's just basically my last name and an acronym, Creating Meaningful Careers. And so I own a career development agency. We're located in Pleasantville, and we specialize in job placement. And we also do virtual reality career training classes. So we're pretty hip with the technology, where we're trying to help people improve in their skills and get better in the workforce. So basically, I just help people, find jobs in many different types of career fields. I'm an Access VR vendor, so you're going to hear that word a lot, which basically just means that if anybody is using Access VR and they register with them to look for employment, I'm the type of agency that they can go to get that service. And then, in conjunction to that, I'm also a self-hired support employment coach like Min through the OPW Self-Direction Program, which is kind of cool. Really excited to talk about that topic. And I'm also ACRE certified in customized employment. So the employment is my jam. This is my favorite topic in the world, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you guys for having
thank
me.
you. And I know you are really knowledgeable about that. So in this next episode, what we actually want to go into some of those logistics with both of you. This is a kind of part A and part B series. But I'm really looking forward because I know I've talked to you and heard you speak about some of these things, and I've learned a lot. So I'm excited for that too. But before we go, let's really focus today on Brendan, because how do we get our hands dirty and help others by showing people what works?
Yeah.
Brendan, tell us a little bit about how Min supports you, and then afterwards how CJ supports you.
So Min supports me by well, start with Min because she's the easiest. Min helped me by just staying on my tiny little toes, and she helped me with staying on track of my emails and staying on track of my busy calendar, and she helped me with just make sure every little things are done, and make sure we finish, and we can always enjoy. We also have fun, but we also like to stay on track on things that we need to finish, and then we and she helped me type things up wherever I need to type up, and then we get the work done, and then we can enjoy a good weekend.
And I have to say, just having worked alongside you for years, I was always amazed how you stayed on top of, you were involved in so many things, organizing over 100 events a year. And I was always really amazed by that. And now I'm really amazed, man, I got to say, because hearing everything that you do in your whole life,
and
to know you're taking on so much more and helping somebody else stay organized is really,
and there might be,
you do it really good.
And there might be more. There might be more, but those are the things that what I could probably what's in my head, I can remember what we do because we do too many things that I cannot remember. So
And how about CJ?
and then for CJ, this is gonna be fun. So CJ, we both work together on one of them is a podcast, and other is we work together on just editing podcasts, and we work together on things. Wherever I need help with, I would talk to CJ, and then he will usually use AI to the chat PDT, and then we can just get things done, and we're done in 5 seconds, maybe less. But and then we are able to just work together, and then he has a whole crew that are at the Pleasantville office, and then that also all work together, and then we the same thing with Min. Both of them we can kind of just work together, and then we get all the little things done, and then and I can go home and don't relax with my cat.
I got to jump on something you said, which I have noticed and we've talked about a bit, and I think it's really important for our audience.
Yeah.
And CJ, kudos to you on this, the way you've really been working with Brendan on AI and how to effectively use AI, because Brendan's been telling me a lot.
Yeah.
We met this week, and he was telling me a lot of what he uses, and we came up with some other ideas, right? But I think that's just, there's such... You hear so frequently that as technology advances, the digital divide gets larger, and so it's really good work. And thank you. I really think that's such important work.
Yes.
Should we go to them,
question.
or did you have something else?
I
you
was
wanted
going to say that I think AI is very helpful for. Some people think that AI can kind of take over things, but I think. For me, basically, I love to use AI as just help me. If I for Min and I, we usually will send out a monthly blog, and then I just copy the whole blog, and because she just taught me that basic things. I'll just copy the blog, and then we just send out the blog, and then I just change the little baby things out, and then so the words sound like me. And then my work is done after that. So that's why I think
really awesome.
AI. I'm just using myself as an example, and I just be able to send that blog, and then that's easily way to get people's attention of why. And sometimes people will tell me, well, how do you get these words? And I'm like, just. It comes up here, but mostly from AI.
Well, Brendan, this is very important because the reality is I've spoken with so many people who are afraid of AI, and I think and a lot of people with disabilities who are afraid of AI, and hearing you just talk about ways it simplifies your life and is almost its own employment support for you. I found the same. I especially because I tend to be more emotional than I want to come across sometimes in my emails. So I frequently put my email in a chat GBT and say, could you just make sure that how I feel isn't coming across? So, that's really cool.
It's also, for me, what I've been told by my mom is she always tells me that you take risks. I take risks. So, and I do. I love to dive in and
take risks,
I kind of just see what happens. And then if it doesn't work, then I just keep taking risks. And then I just, whatever gets in my way, I always know how to get it out of my way. And then I just, by just kicking things out of my way. And then that's how I just take risks of things. And then
you are good at risks. I think that's something that's a real.
I'm brave too. I'm brave to take risks. So
yeah. So now let's turn it over.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from both of you guys, and maybe CJ, you can start now. This time with this question: why do you think employment is working so successfully for Brendan? Because we all know, I think all of us here know that Brendan's employment experience is very different from most people. Especially most people with disabilities.
Right.
Most people in general don't get to do the things that they love and feel passionate about every single day. but especially people with disabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to hear from you why you think his supports are working most
Yeah.
well for him.
I Yeah, I do think about this question a lot actually, and I have a few different answers to that. One, I would say this role that Brendan carved out for himself and the work that he's doing is so important. And I think for one thing, Brendan, it fits your skills and your experience over your career so nicely. Right, you have great communication skills. You love talking to people. You love helping people. You love to, like you said, too. You love to take risks. You solve, right? You may not know an answer right away, but you're gonna do whatever it takes to figure it out, right? Or maybe popping into AI, right? Whatever you need to do to get the answer and get it done. You have those skills, and a big part of what you do requires that. So I think it was a very nice match in that sense. You fit that role so perfectly. You're a great leader, right? You did your leadership program. So you honing all of that in made you like it was kind of a fit both ways. Like you were made for that almost, like it just fits you. Because I know when it comes to being a job developer and job development, what we look to is always the person. We always start with the person, right? What is the person's interests, likes, skills, their past history, right? What have they known? What don't they know? What they want to improve on? And just knowing you, and I've known you for quite a while, you do have a large, awesome skill set. And that's one big reason, I think, number one, of why you're really successful. Number two, I would say too, is that the team that you have, the team that's here today, you have such great supportive coworkers and management. WIHD is such a wonderful organization. I can't tell you how many times the environment, because you have the person, you have the job, you have the skills, but also too, that environment matters so much. Who you spend time with working all the time matters. So for example, with your coworkers, right? Like when you make a mistake, how do those coworkers and management react to you, right? Do they kind of push you to keep moving forward? Do they reprimand you, right? How do they increase your progress, right? How do they react to your wins? Do they encourage you? Do they kind of push you to greatness? Do they limit you, right? So these are all the factors too that kind of influence that. It's kind of like I love the analogy too of like a tree. That a tree is meant to be tall and large, but if you don't water it, if you don't give it sunlight, if you're not taking care of it, it just stays small. It gets limited, right? And that's where that environment comes in. It's a very important piece that sometimes gets forgotten, but you have to look out for that too. So I think that's really awesome. You have such a great team. Again, you're passionate. You know what I mean? You love doing this stuff. Like you would spend your Saturday and Sunday volunteering, going up to Albany, advocating, right? While most people may be, sleeping or sleeping in a little bit, but you're doing those things. You're passionate. You love it. That also is a huge influence. Passion is big. If somebody's lost in a career, when in doubt, I always try to look for some kind of passion because passion is a force. It's a motivating force that sometimes can really bring out people's skills in a way. So it's really good. Some people don't find that, but I think you found that nice match between your passion and your skills. And then, and last, I would just say, Min here today too. She's such a wonderful job coach. She has a great influence too on you being able to, make good judgments. Like when problems happen, as they do, right? How do you go about it? We may not always know the answers, but we'll do what it takes to figure that out one way or another. When it comes to decision making, right? Because sometimes those things aren't easy. So I guess a great environment. You yourself and the team you're surrounded by. Those are all come together. There's so many factors, but they all come together.
Yeah, that's great. Success. Okay, so skills, passion, environment, and Min. So Min, distilling down CJ's words, why don't you tell us what's working? What do you think is working?
And I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah. Tell us why you think employment is working so successfully for Brendan.
I think Brendan's success he started building his support circle really early. He have connections, people who believe in him. He's not afraid to step outside his comfort zone. He volunteer. He apply for leadership class. He take on new projects. And most importantly, he show up.
Yeah.
That consistency make a difference. He's always looking for a way to grow. And that mindset really set him apart from other people. When you think about it, in 2019, when I started working with Brendan, we start out by learning how to use Excel sheet, how to respond to emails, how to put your events in the calendars. if he's happy with the job that, we learned back then in
Yeah.
2019, I wouldn't be here today. But no, look at today. He's co-facilitating a leadership class, and this is the third year.
Oh yeah.
He's co-holding a podcast right now.
Yep.
He went to Albany last week to meet with all these leaders. So for all that being said, I think his willingness to step forward and try new things play a big role in his success.
That's very powerful, and
Wow.
I totally see it. It's true, Brendan. Since in the time I knew you, you have continued to evolve, and a lot of people don't. So that's very
And
powerful.
I think it's also, I think a lot of what we're saying, I think me as a really, I use myself as an example a lot, and I think a lot of me as an example, it may, some of us may not, everyone doesn't may have the same, but I think this is a really helpful information of why if my employment is working, because I have a team, and then and I have two other teams who are not here, Mark and Javier, who are not here, but they are also, we all work together, and then including CJ, and then I think it's just why is the employment working? It's just because I got a team that are really easy to work with, and I easily trust them and respect them and understand and kind, and just loves the community circle that I have.
Yeah. So I wanted to.
And then,
go
I'm
ahead.
just
Yeah, go
saying,
ahead.
sorry,
No, go.
Naomi, you can have a supporting team, but if you're not willingness, if you don't have that willingness to move forward, to be there, to show up, it's hard for us
Yeah.
to support you.
Yeah,
So, give yourself some
Yeah.
credit for that.
you're pretty good at giving yourself
It's
credit.
true.
I try. I usually forget to give myself credit, and I just like, oh, what was this?
All right, so I want to ask a question. Just know there isn't a right answer to this because I have a feeling the answer is different for both of you, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to compare. I want the audience to know there isn't necessarily a right way. But do you guys work with other people besides Brendan?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
I know CJ, you have a whole kind of company you work with, and
Yeah.
Min, do you have a whole caseload, and how does that look?
I actually, I'm working with Brendan as a job coach. I'm working with two other individuals as a DSP. Sometimes as a job coach because I like to seek opportunity for them
Yeah.
as well when we are in the community. But so totally, I have three
Yeah,
people
okay.
that I'm working with.
And different with each, and I like just
Different with
I like
each.
that, CJ, you actually have a company that you've started. You're an entrepreneur, and you also, Min, you've kind of created a career doing this work, but a career that fits the rest of your life. And I think for both of
Yes.
you've been able to provide really effective supports from very different frameworks. So I wanted to kind of people to see that.
Totally.
What?
Yeah, it's so interesting too because, and I'm sure Min knows too, like every person you work with is so unique, and it is really fun to go to each person because they have their own background, their own interests, and then to be one day looking for this type
Yeah.
of job, and then you got another person who's interested in here, and then you find something out that day, and now you want to work on that, and like that's the one thing too that I really love about this field is the variety. It fits my personality kind of well because I do love working with different people of different interests and want to do different things. And it's really is. It's kind of cool. I think I had one job coach who told me too, like that job coaching feels like that show Dirty Jobs with like Mike Rowe, because we get to learn so many different industries and so many different like walks of life that it kind of fulfills me too to like kind of look at from different angles to help people. And so it is cool. It's very interesting and rewarding.
So I think we'll go into like some of the more logistics in the next, but I want to ask a question, and I'm going to bring in some logistics in my question. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the most recent data, but I'm pretty sure supported employment is one of the most underutilized supports for people in self-direction. And I also happen to be aware of at least some previous data. I'm not up on the most recent data, but that most people with disabilities don't have employment. and or good employment supports.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if either of you had insights over, what makes it harder for others to have an employment support system like Brendan?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Naomi. I love this question a lot because you're right. It overall, and I think too, like the national, when you take across all 50 states for vocational rehab, I think the percentage of people employed always hovers around like 20%. And that's not even talking about meaningfully employed. That's just employed, right? I think there's probably a further statistic to that. So it's not particularly great. There's a lot of things to be done. I think I have a lot of thoughts on this. I don't have a large amount of data because the data is always changing and I have to do my own research, but just kind of based on my experience, over the last 8 years in voc rehab and job coaching, there's a few things that like kind of come to mind. I think the number one, first and foremost, is just knowing that job coaching exists. Because sometimes too, a lot of families don't even know that there's a person that can support you in the workplace. I've met families and met individuals that, kind of worked through the school system and kind of grew up. They didn't need a ton of support. They never really got services. They got employed, but they still need support. But they never knew it even existed in the first place, right? So they kind of go from each job to the next, and going through all these challenges. And sometimes when I hear those stories too, like the first thing I think of, like, wow, like a job coach in that situation, like these are people that can advocate for you. They can, if you get into a conflict situations with coworkers and employment, like they can do a lot of help, and so that's the first thing I would say is to first acknowledge, that it exists and to try to get services if you can. I know we're talking New York, it's other states, and I'm not too much sure about the whole process, but that's the first thing I would say. If you're looking towards employment, I would seriously consider, trying to get that support in the first place, whether it's through OPWD or Access VR, whatever route, even if it's, out of pocket, whatever you have to do, have that support system, there, even if you're not using it that much, because there'll come a day, employment is a beautiful beast. And sometimes there will be that time where you're going to need it and you're going to wish you had it. So that would be the first thing I'd say. Another thing too, I find is that sometimes, a job coach exists, but then you're like, all right, how do I get a job coach? Yeah, that's kind of difficult too, especially with self-direction. I mean, it's tough to find ComHabs. It's tough to find, even tougher probably to find self-employed job coaches, right? That you can hire. So sometimes that can be difficult too. A lot of job developers and job coaches do work at agencies full-time. So for you, right, Brendan, like you do self-direction, you have the ability to self-hire your own job coach. That's like the coolest freaking thing in the world, right? You can hire your own personal person to help you. But sometimes it's difficult to find that person, right? Especially a person that has the skill set to help you and then you gel with and you can really nice with, right? So Min fulfills that for you, which is really awesome. So that tends to be kind of an issue. I think another thing too that I've just seen throughout my career is that for these job developers and job coaches, and this might be more of a system / systemic thing, but caseloads, tend to be pretty large. Yeah. And sometimes too, and that kind of, and in that sense, it kind of reduces the quality of the services sometimes. I've seen it too, like a lot of agencies don't have proper staffing in place. It's not uncommon that job developers and coaches have a caseload of anywhere of like 25 to 30 plus individuals that they're kind of bouncing around their specific region. And sometimes they want to perform the quality, of course, like that's what they're there to do. But sometimes, they're just kind of split so finely, so thin that they can't even offer the services that they should be to the person. So I've noticed that too. Wait lists are common. I've seen that too. It's not uncommon too if you ask any families in Access VR or otherwise that they're waiting months on months to just even hear back from somebody, either a service provider or somebody that's going to get them started. So that's kind of heartbreaking too sometimes. So I think if a lot of those systemic things can be fixed, we will see some improvement. I don't have great answers to that and how to solve that, but I know if there is some ease with that burden, we would have some change for sure. And then the last thing that I would say, and this is my biggest thing that I've learned too, now that I've been doing this for almost a decade, is even the training. Like there's so many great resources and so many great companies, like even to like I was saying earlier, like Acre is a great certification. There's a lot of great training out there. But I think for job coaches and job developers, I think we need even more training, particularly with things like accommodations. Sometimes as job developers, maybe we get like a crash course in it, but I think more hands-on training and more needs to be done to really like sink it into us, like how to do that for somebody, because that's pretty critical. Sometimes an accommodation can mean the difference between keeping your job and not, right? And if you're not adequately prepared to do that with the supervisor management, that could be consequential for the person. So it's like accommodations. It's like, how do you, when you're trying to help somebody find a job, how do you go about that process, and how do you present that person in the best light and develop that relationship? Or how do you navigate conflict, right? As it inevitably happens sometimes in workplaces. So I think, these are massive topics. And I think we could use more training with that for sure. Because right now, as it stands, at the time of this video, most of the trainings are usually like online. I mean, they're great trainings. All these companies are good. But I feel like sometimes if you're just doing like maybe 2 or 3 online trainings for a few hours, and that's it for the rest of the year, it doesn't necessarily move the needle to improve us as job developers, our skill
Right,
sets.
right.
Because I think we need to learn human resources. We need to learn how to work with the person, how to, there's so many, like, I think I could spend the rest of my life in school just to learn all the things I need to really support a person perfectly. But yeah, there's just a few things, but those are just kind of what things that I've observed and kind of noticed throughout my career.
Thanks, CJ. Min, any thoughts on issues that you think make it harder for people with disabilities to have good supports?
Oh, everything you just said. But
System.
but
Yeah.
but also like I said, think outside the box. Instead of waiting for them, be active. Don't look for a job coach. Look for a supporter. Look for a staff. The staff can be a DSP. You can call it a job coach. You can call it a DSP. You can call it a supporter staff. What do you want them to support your child with? Take them out in the community. Help them write the resume. Help them looking for a job. So the most important thing is to find the support.
Find the right supports.
First.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you find the right support, you can ask them, can you help my child find a job?
And, Min, just on that, I, as a mom who uses self-direction, that whole idea of having to, it's nerve-wracking to know that you have to find the people to provide the supports. But I got to say, when you do, there tend to be often people people who you be like, oh, that would be a good person. Do you have time? And people who might just be driven by like, oh, I'd love to work, like I love doing stuff like that. I'd love to work on work this in the community or this in independence, or help develop the resume, or go out and look for volunteer opportunities, or go out and apply for jobs. I know my own daughter had staff that helped her with those in addition to her job developer. One of her ComHab people was like, oh, I love going out to places. Let's make that one of that aligns with independence in the community goal. So let's start going into places and doing resumes. So I think that's great. Go ahead, Brendan. I see you.
And I think CJ mentioned a lot of good points about training and about I think you also say about change, or something about the word change. I think is, and I think that things I know probably the old BDDD is always love watching my podcast, and I think they would be probably would be watching this really important podcast since they want to know about the feedback about training. So what Caesar, since you said training, is the training helpful? Is the training confusing? Is it too much, too many? Is it, and what needs to be changed into the DSP system?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Brendan. It's so big too. I think for the training is there, and there's a lot of great companies, because I don't want it to feel that the companies aren't great, because they're wonderful, they're very experienced. I think for me, I'm talking about because I'm in the field, and I would love to see this, is that be cool. Like I would love for more even hands-on practice, whatever that looks like. and to be like it should probably be its own program. It should be like its own degree. You know what I mean? Because there's so much that goes into it. Um, but yeah, I think sometimes that just like I would love to see more. I guess I would say too, because there's it's when you really dive into this thing of
Yeah.
employment and vocational rehabilitation, and you're really researching it, your mind will explode because the breadth and depth of this field is so incredible. And even me too. Now that I've kind of explored a lot of it, I feel like, damn, like there's so many skills that I need to still learn, even myself. You know what I mean? And 8 years into it, right? And we're always constantly learning. It would be cool. Like I would like training in conflict resolution, right? That'd be kind of cool, right? How do you set up an accommodation? How do you do outreach? How do you cold call
Mm.
businesses and say, hey, look, like I'm an agency. I got a great candidate. I'd like to connect it to your business. I heard you're looking for XYZ. I know you're in XYZ industry. How do we tailor our sales pitch, right? Because it was interesting too, like in our field, I mean, if we're talking job
Yeah.
development, for example, it really helps to know what kind of game you're in. And in this kind of game, is a lot of it's sales, and marketing yourself and selling yourself and what skills do you have. So even for me too, like if I learn some sales skills, like how do you do your 30-minute, 30-second pitch, right? And so a lot of programs do have that training, but sometimes it doesn't tend to be the standard. Sometimes if you're looking for that training, you have to go out and proactively look for it. Which to Min's point, that's exactly what you got to do sometimes in this field. You gotta be proactive about things. You got to like don't let it wait for you. You got to go out there and take it. Um, but it would be cool to see a lot of those really great programs become the standard. I think too, like even some community colleges, like I don't know if it was like Dutchess Community, but one of the colleges now has like a DSP program, like a certificate,
Mm.
which is absolutely amazing because it's great to see that that field is becoming more popular and is becoming more in the limelight. So I'm waiting to see a nice job developer certificate. That would be awesome. And if when it does, I'll be the first person to sign up or train or do something.
All right,
So that would be
so
kind
let's collect ourselves, throw in one last thought from each. I'd love to hear from Min, for you first. Just the message you'd like to share
Yeah.
with others who are trying to improve and build up their employment supports in a minute or less, if you can, or a minute or more. Whatever it takes to get that message across.
All right, I'll try to be fast. Well, I'm always started at home. If you want your child to get a job, give them a job at home. Let them practice showing up, completing tasks, time management, and let mistake
Mm.
happen. Let that part being of the learning. Uh, Build a confidence, teach them responsibility, help them understand time management. Those everyday skills become a
Mm.
story when you land an interview.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a very
You,
hard
you want
thing.
to have some real experience to talk when someone interview you for a job, and that help build up your resume. The next thing is build connection in the
Mhm.
community, volunteer, get
Mhm.
involved, um, know more people. The more people you know, the more opportunity open up. Sometimes employment doesn't just happen; it go with like who you
Mhm.
know.
Hmm.
of.
So
Often.
open up, talk
And just
about it.
like I think you're making a perfect example as how did Naomi found me and used the rope and dragged me in,
Hmm.
and
It's true.
then
I knew your mom.
and then and she easily found me by just using that rope, and then and I think the DSP is a really in a very I say the DSP and the bridge between a lot of the community is kind of messy, and I guess how to fix the DSP system is to just have to make a whole new bridge, and then because a lot of people who are struggling to find the DSP or trying to find a DSP that's similar, just like Min and CJ and my two others that I have. And that is impossible to find. But and I think it's and I hope honestly I hope OWDD and of course I hope the governor is also watching because the DSP the community and DSP needs help and needs to find answers. And there is job banks on Facebook. Wherever the location you live in Westchester, there's a whole bunch of different banks on Facebook. And Facebook is where all the magic happens.
Brendan, I want to stop you there because you're bringing up an important point that I want to say that we're going to add to the show notes links to some of these Facebook groups that we started at WID through the inspiration of your mom, actually, and you. But there are these Facebook groups you can join to try and find staff, to talk about issues and self-direction. But that is a place you could go if you are looking to find supported employment staff through self-direction. CJ, before we sign off, any last quick thoughts that you want to share to give people hope about, how to, the same hope that Brendan Brendan inspires?
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm going to reiterate and piggyback on what you guys have already said, which is that the first thing I say, if you can get services, I definitely encourage everybody to try it, to go through it. I know it's a beast and it could be a lot, but I promise once you get to the other side, it really is worth it, especially too if you're talking about self-direction, because sometimes that may take a long time to get into place. But let me tell you, man, right, Brendan, you could probably say it too, like how much self-direction has really changed for you. It gives you so many opportunities and so many things. It really is a wonderful program. So that'll be the first thing. And just kind of what you guys were saying too, like finding job coaches, use social media, use schools, maybe there's like a part-time worker who'd be willing to kind of help you out on the weekends, or colleges, a lot of, even me too, when I started my DSP career, right, I was kind of like that, kind of wandering psychology student from college, trying to figure out what's my career going to be, right? And that's how I discovered, this wonderful field, right? So a lot of those, those populations, are great for this field too, to search for. And then, and then what if you do have a job coach? I would say this too, have a good relationship with them and communicate with them. Because the more info you give them, the more they can help you. Give them status updates, tell them like, hey, I'm learning this thing at job. I just found something else. I want to learn more about this, or I want to train in this, right? Because then your job coach can help steer the path to find out how to get you there. So
CJ, I wanted to distill down what you said and reinforce it as a mom who has been through the beast of setting up self-direction, which took actually 2 full years during COVID for my daughter, as well as the beast of Access VR, and both of which, when we got through that beast, were really successful supports. My daughter works 5 days a week. She utilizes her self-directed supports, and they are really effective for her as well. So I think for families who are intimidated by the beast, it's, take a breath, be patient, know it's going to take some time, but that in the end, it really does provide some really, and there's a learning curve that provides even more anxiety about it. But as you work through that, it really does become
And I also would jump
powerful.
in and see they say that like my self-direction system is I'm fully independent with my self-direction. And it was a little challenging just trying to learn on how to do it, but for me, I learned quick, and then I will easily I learn quick, and I will be able to know like I got this, and I'm all good to go from there. And then, but there's usually I'm really good at just men and I work together on self-direction sometimes, and we will usually send things out, and whatever needs of all of my bills need to be done, and usually I would have to say I don't usually say, but usually my dad and I will work together, and I don't usually use it with my dad. Usually I use my mom, but I have to put my dad in the spotlight a little bit, and then. So me and my dad will work together, and then we will do all the self-direction eViro, and I have an amazing team, self-direction team, and so that to make my self-direction more accessible, and I can be able to go with the things I need to do and live independently and live independently in my own life, and and that's also why is my independent is working. So that's why.
Yeah.
So I think when you have an amazing team, when you have an amazing self-direction team, and you got everything organized, everything get together, and everything is all clean and ready, and you're ready to roll out and ready to see what can you get yourself into the community, all in a positive way.
So thank you, Min. Thank you, CJ.
Yes.
Thank you, Brendan, because
thank you, guys.
what you shared today, I really think is going to help like other people.
Yeah.
And Brendan, that's what getting your hands dirty in employment really
And
is.
then
It's helping others.
And I think if anybody who is struggling on finding a DSP or struggling on trying to do anything that's involved with self-direction, I think there is answers. You just have to find the keys, just like I found the key. And I easily can find keys in an easy way, just by just searching. But I think there's a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of self-direction groups, a lot of DSP groups, and there's a lot of a lot of really great organizations that would be able to answer all your questions.
All right.
And
Thank you, Brendan.
yes.
And thank you,
Love it.
guys. And Brendan, signing off on
Yeah.
another episode of Two Voices.
Two voices, one mission. Thank you,
I love
guys.
It's a wrap.